Mr. Morelle is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd just like to ask to enter into the record two articles, one by the Wisconsin Examiner about the Uline family, owners of a Wisconsin company that gave millions to the January 6th March for Trump, which preceded the attack on the U.S. Capitol, as well as an article from the New York Times. These conservatives have a laser focus, owning the libs, which details, although it has been identified by two people with knowledge of the finances of the group, the Federalists indicate that Mr. Uline is also a significant contributor to the Federalists. Since we're just making connections here, I'll enter those into the record. And let me, I'm sorry. Yeah, thank you. And if I might, let me just begin by asking the members of the panel, I'll do this quickly rather than asking each of you. Please raise your hand if you believe Donald Trump won the 2020 election. Just for the record, please let the record note that each of the four witnesses believes that Joe Biden won the 2020 election. Let me begin, and I apologize, there's a lot of questions in a short time, but Professor Moore, I understand from your testimony you're working on a book called A Republic If You Can Afford It. How much does it cost to administer an election? I think it's an incredibly important question, and one Congress sometimes overlooks or ignores, or maybe just doesn't fully understand. Can you give us some detail on the full costs based on your work of administering elections in the United States? And you can divide it by federal versus state, however you're looking at it.
Yeah, can you hear me? The mic, okay, there, the mic's on. So this isn't just something that Congress has a hard time wrapping its arms around. Because local governments do elections administration, this has been something that's been overlooked in the literature for years and years and years. And so we're just now getting a handle on that. My team and I, we look at the annual financial reports, and we look at the audited financial statements to see the total expenditures of local governments, because local governments are the governments that are spending or are doing elections administration. So our estimates are a lower bound estimate, but we estimate it somewhere in the cost every year of about $2 billion. So elections administration actually costs a lot of money. I think that's a misperception by a lot of people that don't understand how big elections administration is in the United States. But I would say that because we look at expenditures, that $2 billion estimate is absolutely the lower bound estimate there.
Hey, just as a follow-up, you've identified, I think we all know, that most of that cost is borne by local governments, right, who all have different capacities to be able to fund elections. Does it affect not only the quality, but does it affect the degree to which it is a standardized approach to elections in all communities around the country, urban, rural, suburban, et cetera?
Actually, there's wide variation in the amount that gets spent across the country. On average, in the lowest spending states, it may be $2 or $3 per voter, or registered voter rather, and in the highest spending states, it's more like $20 per voter.
And would you suggest that affects the ability or the quality of the ability of local election officials to carry out their responsibilities?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, the ability to have the money that you need to buy the equipment, enter into the contracts that you need, have polling places, pay people, all of it matters.
Is there, in your opinion, more that the federal government ought to be doing to guarantee a floor, in effect, of support for local election officials across the country in areas that are red, blue, purple, and anywhere in between?
Yeah, as my statements indicate, I really think that with states banning private funding, which, you know, there may be valid reasons for that, but if that is going to be the case, elections administration has been underfunded for years. Now it is getting critically underfunded because, yeah, it just doesn't have the resources that it needs. So we need the federal government to step in here.
And do you have does your organization have any recommendations on what the level of funding ought to be from Congress? As an appropriator, I'd be curious if do you anticipate having a degree of recommendation on what we ought to do to be able to support local election officials across the country?
So the people I work with, Martha Croft, Mary Jo McGowan at the University of North Carolina, Charlotte, they're great people. I'm not speaking for them today. I'm only speaking for myself. You know, when I hear in the election administration community at least $1, I think that should be the floor. I think we should start at $1 for all communities, and then based on cost structure, adjust accordingly. Because some of these smaller jurisdictions are spending $10, $11 on average. So it really needs to be increased for those large.
Well, I'll be looking to see if there's recommendations on that, and I would just suggest that it would be unnecessary for philanthropic organizations to contribute to elections if there was adequate funding, and we could guarantee that, which I would clearly support. With that, I'll yield back.
Gentleman yields back.